Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shankapotamus. We're on episode 7 here now, and I'm joined today by Mr. James Rooks. James, how are you?
Good, Jay. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. So James is jumping in today for Ian. Ian and his wife are expecting any minute. And so our normal routine podcast with myself and Ian is now myself and James today. So James is going to get on here and we're going to just talk about our normal banter stuff and see where it leads us. And then a little bit later, we're both going to interview Mr. Kyle Kleeburg, who's our new Director of Goalkeeping for the club. So be looking forward to that and get to know him a little bit better. So James, we're just going to jump right into the kind of our talk and our discussions. The biggest thing that I have, and me and Ian talked about this a little bit last week on our episode 6, was VAR and kind of what direction it's going and how it's going and all that stuff. So I'd love to get your thoughts on it and probably talk about a few episodes this weekend because there was few.
Right. First off, good luck to the Richards family and everything they've got going on today. Hopefully everything turns out well, and
Yep.
We're looking forward to the announcement. So exciting time for them, and I'm excited to be here with you, Jay, and thanks for inviting me on. VAR this last week, really, leading back to last weekend, was quite controversial. There was a lot of instances, red cards, penalties, goals given, offside calls. I thought I knew what offside was, and now
Right.
Now sometimes it's a hand, sometimes it's a finger, sometimes it's an armpit, sometimes it's a foot. I always thought it was what the goal scoring surface of your body, and a hand isn't a goal scoring surface of your body. It would be a handball, and so it's interesting from the last week, how many times I had to go to VAR, just quite crazy, and I think one of the biggest ones is the elbow from the Newcastle Southampton game, the West Ham Fulham game.
Right.
Where they're lined up for a free kick and he gets his elbow up. I thought it was quite clear that it wasn't an intentional throwing of the elbow. And even the guy that got his face pummeled by an elbow, went to the referee right away and was like, no, it's not. It wasn't intentional.
Right.
And then Mike Dean spent 90 seconds looking at a 3-second clip to make his decision as well. So, crazy weekend, crazy last week with VAR.
Yeah, we had, myself and Ian talked about that last week about what's offsides these days in terms of just like you said, I was under the impression that it had to be a part of the body that could actually score a goal. And last time I checked, the rule states that you can't score a goal with your hand or your arm. And a lot of these VAR decisions are going to that, right? I mean, there were, a couple of weeks ago, it was like there was one that was like mid elbow. It was Danny Ings, I think, in the Southampton game where he scored in like the 94th minute. And it's super frustrating. I get why fans are all over the place with it because sometimes it looks like they get it right and it's spot on. And then there's days it's just like, oh my gosh, it's a train wreck. And what's going to happen next? The two instances I would like to talk about and get your thoughts about are Arsenal game. So David Luiz's PK that he gave up and ultimately was given a red card. And then in the Southampton United game, their center back, it was very similar to what David Luiz got. We'd love to get your thoughts on kind of what you saw and, the decisions that were made there with that.
Yeah. I don't. Jay, did you ever ref?
I did. I
Yeah,
did.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
did.
So did
Yeah.
I. I did a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and there's been a lot
Yeah.
of rule changes, and
Mm-hmm.
the double jeopardy rule
Yep.
that
Yeah.
used to be in play,
Right.
where if there was a foul in the box
Right.
and you were in behind going to goal, it was a red card and a penalty.
Correct.
A few years ago, it changed, and
Right.
so the change was if you attempt to go for the ball,
Right.
then it's a yellow card and a penalty. So you don't get potentially a goal scored against you
Right.
and playing down a man.
Yeah. You don't get the trifecta of
Right.
red card, goal,
Right.
PK, all that. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so they took that away. And so, the attempt for the ball is always the in question piece now. Right.
Right.
And so it's, if there's an attempt at the ball, then it's a yellow, which is what's the shocking part to me. I don't think either one of the penalties that you were referring to and the red cards were reds.
No. Yeah. I agree.
I just don't see it. But to the letter of the law, I guess. I mean, the referees, if they're gonna say it was a foul, then it probably has to be a red, which
Right.
I guess is the issue with the new rule.
Right.
Because the referees deemed that it was last man, and there was a foul that occurred, and if that happens, and
and
red, which is wrong.
no play on the ball, right? I guess
Right.
that was probably the major one. But in both
Right.
instances, it didn't look like neither were trying to foul the guy. I mean, David Luiz's looked like he was trying to actually run around him on a different
Right.
angle.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I think
he looked like he backed up with
Yeah,
his hands,
yeah,
like trying
yeah.
to get out of the way.
And I think Martial flopped on the other one, to
Right,
be honest
right.
with you. I mean, I think
Right.
he was an awful first touch by him, and I think he tried to bail himself out by flopping. And pretty harsh calls and calls that change games. I mean, look at the Arsenal. I think it was Arsenal and Wolves, right? It was, I think it was 1-0 at the time that happened, Arsenal, and that PK and red card right before halftime gives them a 1-1 going into half, and ultimately Arsenal loses. Granted, they went 2 men down in that game.
Right.
Crazy that on the same day, 2 games, there was 2 red cards on the same team, right? Arsenal and then Southampton, where teams were playing 9 versus 11 against teams. So that was quite interesting there. But yeah, I just didn't. I agree with you. I didn't see the malice in the call or in the foul, and even going to VAR and them examining it. You would think they would get it right.
Right.
We talked about this last week in terms of like with the NFL piece and how majority of the time it seems like they get it right in terms of their instant replay and showing stuff. And then the human error piece for me was the big point I had last week is like, whatever the call in the field is, if there's no video evidence that shows that it should be overturned, then that should be the call. Right. I feel like we're trying to take the human error out of it, which for me and you, I mean, we grew up, I mean, that was part of the game, right? I mean, referee made a mistake. Yep. You got to deal with it. So be it.
Right.
I mean, we're all humans and we're all going to make mistakes, coaches, players, refs. And I feel like they're trying to take it away and it's almost backfiring in their face a little bit.
Right. I think, I used to, one of my referee mentors, I had a couple referee mentors when I was doing it when I was younger. Linda Driggers, who, ever so often is on the field.
She's still out there. Yeah.
And then Essie Bahamas, who's the state referee director now. And, something that those two told me was you have to remember the difference between letter of the law and spirit of the game. And I think they're taking the spirit of the game aspect, I think, out
Good
with
point.
VAR. Where, did Louise clip the guy? I think so. Yes. Was he trying to get out of the way? Yes.
Right.
And where's the wiggle room in it? And that's where I think, I can't remember what it stands for, but IFAB, the International Football Board, the people that make all the rules. I think that's the the piece that's missing, is where is the spirit of the game aspect?
Right.
Where he's trying to get out of the way,
Right.
and it's so hard on the Marshall, the foul. I mean, you and I could go round and round about Anthony
Right.
Martial.
Right. Yeah. Not a fan.
Yeah. And what we think, but
Right.
I actually spoke to the 2009 boys this weekend about him, and what to watch for if he played, and he actually didn't end up playing, but
Right.
and so it's frustrating, seeing those type of things happen in the game. You want it to be something that is going to get it right. You want VAR to be something that the referees can use to say, okay, an egregious error was made,
right,
and how are we going to fix it? And
right,
and I get there's so many decisions they have to make, and so many things that they get graded on.
Right.
One of the cool things when we went to England,
right,
was sitting in on the referee the last night that we were there, and just the rigorous scrutiny they go under just by their own people.
Well, and what I took out of it was every call they made, they had to justify the call, right or wrong, right? And that was the crazy part. Like even a normal, throw in. Why'd you call it? Why'd you call it this way? Right. And they had to justify
it went off blue.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts to think of it that way. And we talked about this a little bit last week in terms of, it's very difficult, I think. Actually, Ian brought this up, for VAR to gauge the temperature of the game, right? I mean, how do they know? Going back to we talked about the Bruno challenge in the Arsenal game where the ball was a good 6 yards away, and it looked like he came down on the back of his ankle. And how does VAR know what was going on previously before that happened? Right? What was it? Was Bruno barking at someone? Was Xhaka and him going at it before then? Right? The center referee knows that, right? And when VAR comes into play and makes these decisions ultimately, right? That's the human error piece that I struggle with, right? Is because if you're the center referee, you should know the temperature of the game. Has it been clean game? Has it been chippy? Guys chirping at each other, whatever it may be. And so you should be able to make an educated decision, right? On, okay, this warrants a red. Okay, this is a yellow, right? It's the first time, right? The game's been pretty clean up until this point, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I feel like sometimes it's taken out of the referee's hands in those decisions, because you're sitting in a booth in London, wherever they are, I don't know where they're at, and they're making a decision based off what they see on a screen, opposed to, what's going on in that moment.
Right. Yeah. Spirit of the game.
Exactly. Right. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah. And it's something that, we're both youth directors in Colorado and for the same club. And, we see many games, we see many opportunities, and, we have a lot of young referees out there and inexperienced referees, and even experienced referees that we may or may not get along with, or agree with their calls. And it's something that has reminded me that if Mike Dean on the weekend is getting things wrong with who knows how many cameras with a VAR support, man, how many calls are the young referees that are making $10 a game?
I know,
how many are they missing? And so it's just a reminder for all of us, I think, parents, players, coaches, anybody involved in the game, to back off the referee a little bit, especially in our platform.
Especially there.
When we don't agree with things that are happening in the professional game, and they're getting paid a lot of money to do what they do, and it's their full-time job as Premier League referees.
Right.
And, if those guys are getting it wrong, then certainly it's going to be wrong, sometimes at Stanger on a Saturday.
Right.
And so.
Speaking of Mike Dean, he was so from midweek through the weekend in the Premier League this week, there was 6 red cards given, and he gave 3 of them. And as of today, 2 of those 3 have been rescinded by the FA. The only one that wasn't rescinded was David Luiz's one, I believe, but the one in the Southampton Man U game was rescinded. And then today, the West Ham, Suchik's elbow was rescinded as well. It came out today as well that, Mike Dean has asked to be taken off the weekend games because of death threats to himself and family and stuff like that. I can only imagine the pressure that these guys are under on a daily basis. What do you take of the FA stepping in? I got my own thoughts on it, but I would love to get your thoughts on the FA kind of stepping in and kind of rescinding those decisions when they happen.
Yeah, it's interesting on red cards for sure. When you get sent off for a straight red in the youth game, it's usually 1 game,
right?
Suspension. In international soccer, it's usually 3,
right,
or more,
right?
Especially for something like the elbow yesterday. I mean,
right,
it had to be written down as violent conduct,
for sure,
which is the most egregious thing you can get sent off for in the game.
Right.
And so getting an elbow to the face and then, taking all the time to look at it through VAR and then the FA after the game looking at it again and going, we're going to rescind it.
Right.
Basically that takes his punishment from, I don't remember what minute he got the red card, but, the time in the game where they spent playing a man down and they got a draw, right. which was, pretty good for them to be playing a man down. But then for the FA to step in and rescind the red card, to basically take the red card away,
right.
Is, it's an interesting proposition, interesting idea. You put all your faith into the referees, and you put a ton of money and resources into referees and VAR, and then you look at it again after another look and say, we're going to take it away.
Right.
How much street cred are you giving Mike Dean?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, do you feel like that's like if you're in that situation, do you feel like the FA is kind of throwing you underneath the bus there? Like, you screwed up, right? And, we're going to take it away.
Yeah. I think that is kind of what's happening. I agree with them taking it away.
Right.
Because I don't think that it should have been a red.
Right.
I think it borderlines on maybe a yellow, maybe.
Right.
Those things happen.
Right.
And to have that happen in a game and then to take it away after, I think you put yourself into a tough spot on, well, what happens in the next elbow?
Right.
How can you prove intent?
Right.
I can look over here and know someone's behind me,
right,
and do a drop step and catch someone and sorry, and really mean it,
right,
So I think that's the unfortunate part is I think they want their cake and eat it too a little bit.
Right.
That they want VAR to be able to be there as a resource for referees to make sure they get things right, which is okay. I'd rather you just educate those referees that are doing the games and have them, it happens. And then rescind it if you have to with no VAR. But the fact that you have the check, you have that opportunity to get it right, and then to take it away after, I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it was the right call. I don't think he did it on purpose.
No. Yeah. No. I don't think any of the.
So, but
the 3 that I just mentioned that Mike Dean gave, I don't think any of the 3 there was intent in terms of, trying to foul or, not play the ball or whatever it may be. I think it was just bad timing, bad positioning, whatever it may be, and didn't think it warranted that.
Right.
Let's kind of switch gears a little bit and just kind of recap. I want to talk about just kind of from midweek through the weekend, kind of, any game or games that stood out to you, surprises, anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few things that happened, and I feel like the Chelsea is starting to figure things out. And I'm actually I'm a United fan, right? And so, but Chelsea are starting to figure things out with their new coach.
Yep.
They beat Sheffield yesterday. They beat Tottenham last week. They haven't lost under their new manager, Thomas Tuchel.
Yep.
That stood out. Arsenal, man, they just can't figure it out.
Right.
They're in a struggle bus right now. I have to talk about the United Everton game because I watched it live, and goodness, I mean, talk about the tide of two tails. Two halves, and United were all about it in the first half. Bruno scored an amazing goal. The dummy that he had, if you guys haven't seen that goal, go back and check Bruno's goal.
Well, I think the build up from it as well, not just that piece, but there was just the build of it from it, and just how it ended.
Switching the point of attack, and Bruno creating space for himself by the dummy, got the defenders to move quickly. I think it was Wan-Bissaka that ended up getting the ball and then giving it to Bruno. Which and again, it's awesome seeing how many outside backs are getting forward in the game.
Right.
I'll talk about United a lot, but Alex Tellez was bought over the summer and brought in and to play the three, to play left back, and Luke Shaw had some competition, and he's been playing worldy lately, and along with Wan-Bissaka, getting forward and crossing the ball and creating chances and creating havoc in the attacking third as an outside back. Is a piece where some youth players could really benefit from seeing how the outside back position is being played in the professional game.
Right.
Not just with United. There's a lot of people that are throwing people forward. It's really fun to see that.
Exactly.
And then the absolute shocking defending in the 95th minute on the free kick between Everton and United was just absolutely crazy.
From your captain.
And and the first goal against was on Maguire as well. Why did he go step to the ball 40 yards away from goal? I mean, we talk about that with youth center backs.
Right.
You don't need to go win the ball.
No.
And he stepped forward and created the space for the guy to run in behind, and then De Gea needs to catch the ball, and just issue after issue. But that third goal for Everton, the fact that Harry Maguire has gone over to guard the Everton goalkeeper.
Yeah, he was guarding the goalie. Like, is the goalkeeper that much of a threat? Like, come on. There's a reason why he's in the goal.
Right.
And not on the field.
Right. And you'd think that a center back, their qualities are being a ball winner.
Yep.
And you throw one of the guys who's supposed to be a ball winner. I mean, he goes forward on corners, so you've got to think that the coach thinks he can go win balls in the air. That he should probably be on somebody other than the goalkeeper who's come forward to try to tie the game at the end. And
he and he kept him on sides too, right? I mean, he was the reason why it was on sides in the first place. Marking the wrong man. I mean, I think I read something. I mean, I don't, Ferdinand or Vidic, those guys, that wouldn't have happened, right? I mean, those guys would have just put everything on the line to freaking keep the ball out of the back of the net, right? And yet Maguire plays every minute of every game. He doesn't take breaks, right? I mean, Ollie loves him, and
Yep.
I don't see it. Sorry.
Right.
I mean,
I wonder how much Ollie loves him, or how much he gets pressured from the upper management.
yeah, you spent 80 million on him, so you got to play him, and you got to do this.
Play the 80 million guy.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
and,
it was that was a tough that was a tough one for me for sure, because you're up 2-0, right? You give it back, right? We're poor form at home for some reason. Maybe it's not having fans. Maybe it's, who knows what it is. And then you get the goal back and you're like, all right, now we got to kill the game off. And, you give up last kick of the game, right? I mean, that's what it was. I mean, right after they scored, they blew the whistle. And so I just feel like, one of the pundits made a comment about, it almost seems like, it might've been Carragher. It almost seems like United is just happy to be in the conversation, but they're not ready to take that next step and be title contenders. And, I kind of, a little bit agree with that. Right. I mean, it almost seems like, we put ourselves in this spot, and, we'll talk about City in a minute, but, we put ourselves in that category with City, but yet in these games like this, especially after the midweek game where you'd freaking win 9-0, right? And you close the gap on the goal differential tremendously. And then you go out at home and, tie Everton 3-3, which is a good team. Not saying that they're not, but, you had the opportunity. Yeah, 2-0 at half and up 3-2 with 15 left. I mean, those games should be done and dusted, right? And you should be walking away with the 3 points.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited later to talk to Kyle Kleeburg, and see if he saw the United game, or the end of that,
right?
And see what he would say. De Gea could have done better as well.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, our best backs have been Shaw for sure. I mean, I think he's been number one. I mean, I think he's felt the competition, and he's taken the bull by the horns and ran with it, right? And he's relishing in that competition piece with Tellez, and rightfully so. I think he's been our best back for sure. And then, which
is a cool story for kids to see too.
100%, right?
So I've got some adversity. Another player that plays my position has come in. What am I going to do? Am I going to pout and whine about it, or am I going to go play and try to get my minutes back? And he's done a great job.
Yeah, and then Bailly for me is the other one. I mean, the guy can't stay healthy, but he might be our best center back. But he can't stay on the field, right? And it's just super frustrating that that's continuously been our weakest point. United's been weakest point over the years. I mean, I just saw from the weekend as well, even with the 23s, the last 2 games that the U23s have been 6-3 and 6-4. And they won the game.
Select scores.
Yeah, right. I mean, they both won the games. They played Liverpool and Blackburn. They beat Liverpool 6-3. They beat Blackburn 6-4. But it's like, we don't have any backs in the freaking U23s either, right? And so it's like, why do we continuously go after attacking-minded players when I feel like we have those guys, and it seems like we have those guys in the 23s now, but yet back line is still freaking Swiss cheese.
Yeah,
it's frustrating. Yeah. It's so frustrating.
And I mean, how many clubs are willing to part ways with their really good backs?
True.
Because it is so hard. I mean, I don't see
few and far between, right? Yeah.
Right. I don't see United looking to sell Luke Shaw anytime. No. They want to keep a hold of him.
Well, and look at Liverpool right now. We'll switch gears a little bit, but and they're in injury issues and on the back line and makeshifting, and I almost feel like Jurgen's getting it wrong with almost playing players out of position. I'd rather if that was a team I supported, I'd rather see the manager bring in the young guys and just take your lumps, right, and deal with it.
Right.
And
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to take your lumps, take them.
right.
But develop players.
Yeah, but why have Jordan Henderson be back there and others be Milner and those guys, because you're trying to, I get it. You're in a top, okay. I don't think they're in the title race, but you're in a top 4 race. Let's put it that way. And so I get that piece, but I can't imagine that you don't have a young kid that can come in and step in and pair him with someone else, maybe an experienced player. But
and Liverpool, what a run they had last year. And and you talk about it's so hard to repeat, and it's so hard to be in that mindset all the time. When Leicester City won the title a few years ago, they've been good. I mean, they're in third, they're sitting in third right now, which is awesome, but they're 7 points back. It's not like if they win this weekend, they're going to take over. They're still 7 points back. I saw a stat today that Liverpool, after 23 games last year, were on 67 points. And they're now on 40.
It's crazy.
And injuries, holy cow, their injuries are massive. But that's the biggest drop after 23 games ever. I mean, that's a lot. That's 9 wins. I'm looking at the stats right now. They have 12 games. Excuse me. They have 12 games where they've either tied or lost. And 9 wins different. So, I mean, just seeing where they were last year after 23 games, but they only had 3 ties or losses last year at this point, and they have 12 right now.
Well, and they had lost the last 3 at Anfield, right? I mean, they had a 68 game winning streak, and now I've lost the last 3 there. I mean, that's, it's just like you said, it's tough to repeat, right? We saw it last night in the Super Bowl. Kansas City was trying to repeat, and it's tough. It's a tough grind for anyone, especially, I mean, Premier League. I mean, you're talking 38 games that they got to play, and even more with Champions League or Europa and FA and Carabao and all that stuff. I mean, so it's a ridiculous season, right? And tall ass to do. I don't think you'll ever see probably something that we saw last year that they did, where they just kind of ran away with it and won by so many points and just dominated as much as they did. I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, go ahead.
You had brought up with Liverpool and trying to make the top 4. Why is that so important?
Well, I think, there's probably a lot of things. I mean, my personal opinion on why it's important would be, you get the Champions League football, right? And that piece. And then on top of that, can you attract, possible players to, come over, right? In those situations, right? I think, that's more attractive to bigger star players that might be playing at a lesser end team, club, whatever, league. And I think that, it's very attractive in those situations for that. It's probably, I think that's why you see it's very difficult when you're not in those environments and playing in those leagues. You lose out on a lot of those players. I feel like that's why United has lost out on a few of these guys over the years, just because, this last year was the only year that we've been in Champions League for a while. We've been out of that top 4 range, and so attracting those guys to come in is key, right? And I think Liverpool, it sounds like they're in that situation right now a little bit, right? I mean, yeah, they've had some injuries, but they're losing some players. It doesn't look like they're going to re-sign a couple guys, and so. I think that's going to be very important. And what's crazy is, for me right now, I think it's City's to lose in terms of the league. I just, unless they have some sort of a collapse or injuries or something like that, I don't see anybody. I mean, what are they, 5 points ahead of United currently with a game in hand? So that could go to 8.
Yeah.
And that's the closest team to them. I mean, they're everybody else, they're 10 or more, I think, with the game in hand.
Yeah,
if they win, assuming they win that.
Yeah, they're 7 ahead of Leicester right now with a game in hand. So
right. So I think it's kind of done and dusted in terms of just the way they're playing right now. I just think they're on another level. And they showed their class yesterday against Liverpool. But
zeros at half.
Yeah, and it
zeros at half, and it ends 4-1.
Yeah. So I think 2 through probably 7, 8, 9. I haven't looked at the table today, but is all within probably, I would say less than 10 points is my guess.
Yeah, 2 through 10 is 10 points.
Yeah, so there you go. I mean,
Manchester United sit on 45, and
Yep.
Aston Villa is in 9th on 35.
Right.
It's just
Yep. And everybody has
incredible.
games in hands because of COVID and all this stuff,
Right.
So, a lot of ground could be covered in a short amount of time. So, this last half of the season, I think is going to be pretty crazy, right? You're going to throw in Champions League and Europa in there. So there's going to be more games and more tired legs. And, we're going to see who'll be able to handle that piece. I'll ask you this question, and I was going to ask you this anyways, but since it's up, what, as of right now, if you could guess it, what's your top 4 if the season ended today?
Yeah, in order or just top 4?
Let's make it interesting. Let's go in order.
All right.
You give me yours, and I'll give you mine on what you think how it's going to end.
Yeah, I think City is going to win the league. And that pains me. I know there's some people that are going to listen to this and make fun of me for it.
Right. Yeah.
Dang it, City. But I think Man City wins it. After that, I hate to say it, but I think Chelsea finishes second. I think that they're playing really well right now. I think they're on a roll. They're motivated with the midseason manager change. Yeah. They're being pushed hard to go try to get into the top 4, and they're only a point behind Liverpool right now.
Yep.
Which is in the top 4, which will put them in 4th.
Right.
Same games played. The
only goal. Yeah, this is 1, right?
1. Yeah, just 1 different. So I would say Chelsea would be 2. I'm going to go Man United 3 and Leicester 4.
So no Liverpool.
No Liverpool. I think Liverpool drops off. I think they continue struggling. And I just don't think – I think Liverpool finished 5th. But – with no Van Dijk and just the center back issues they're having, it's so hard to win games, and it's tough.
Right. I will go. I think I agree with you on number 1. I think it's City's to lose. I think I'm saying that right now, and we still have, probably a little less than half the season left, but a lot of games still to play, but.
Yep.
What is it? Well, they got 16 games left.
16,
they got 16. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to give United the benefit of the doubt. All right. And there's probably a homer pick here. I get it. Right. And you can say what you want, but I think they find a way to get second. I think they're the only team that can compete with City in terms of, winning the title. I don't think anybody else, is there yet. I mean, they're the closest right now, and I think they figure out a way to try to keep it close. But in the end, I think City. So I'll go United 2. I'm going to go Chelsea 3. I agree with you and your take on that. I think the managerial change. I think the system change. Obviously, different players coming into the lineup based off that. I think they find a way. I could easily see them finishing second as well, just like you predicted. I'm going to give the champions, the reigning champions, the benefit of the doubt as well. I want to say Leicester, but I feel like we saw it last year with them too. They kind of fell off at the end and missed a chance to be in that top four. Losing to United basically was the game for them, right? They had to win that game, and actually I think we tied that game, right? We had to tie or win that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think we drew.
And they had to beat us. Either way, they missed out. So I'm going to go that. So I'm going to go City, United, Chelsea, Liverpool in that order as of today.
Yeah. We'll have to see what
February
it comes down to in May.
Yeah. All right. Perfect.
Yep. Talking to the top four, the other thing that gets brought up is the relegation zone.
Yep.
And I wanted to chat with you a little bit about that. Because, and we can talk a little bit about relegation zone, and basically what relegation zone for everybody on here, the bottom three teams of the Premier League drop down to the championship.
Right.
It's saying, that you need to play in a different
kind
league.
of similar to the leagues that our youth players play in, right? In the Champions League, right? You win your league, you move up, you finish in the bottom, you get relegated down. So similar pieces.
Right. It doesn't really matter which order you finish, 18, 19, and 20.
No.
You don't get anything for finishing 18th or 20th.
Yeah.
You get moved down. And right now it's an 8-point difference from 17th to 18th.
Mm-hmm.
Which is similar to the top of the table. It's actually 1 point more, right?
Right.
No.
Well, if City wins,
it could be the same, right?
Yeah, so City wins, right? Yeah.
Right. But 8 points is a lot. I mean, that's 3-win difference that Fulham's going to have to catch Burnley. It's almost, done for West Brom and Sheffield.
I know. They'd have to go on a serious run for sure.
Right. Right. And and so the bottom three teams get moved down, and three teams from the championship move up. But the financial impact is massive.
Yep.
That they get some of the financial impact next year,
right,
to try to get back up, but they don't get all of it. And trying to get back into the Premier League is a difficult thing then.
Right.
But it seems like I'm looking at the results. The last 5 results for each of those 3 teams, Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield, that's 15 games. There's 2 wins between the 3 teams out of those 15 games, which is right. That's
and I think Sheffield has them both, right?
Sheffield has them both, and they're in 20th.
They're actually in the best form right now. I think they going into yesterday's game against who did they play yesterday?
They played Chelsea.
That's right, Chelsea. They had won the last 5 out of their 7.
Yeah.
Right? So they were in all competitions, not just the Premier League, but all competitions.
Right. Yeah.
But so it's one of those things that if I had to guess right now, obviously they're 12 points out right now with one more game played than Burnley.
Mm-hmm.
I would, if I had to bet, I could see them getting out, but they'd have to go on some sort of a serious run here. I mean, they finished in the top half of the league last year, so I know they have the players and the capabilities to put some wins together. So it'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. I would have, out of those 3, I would have picked Sheffield to be the one currently looking at the standings. They have the best shot, and they're the ones that are the furthest away.
Yeah, it's crazy. And a few weeks back they were on like 5 points.
Right.
So they've actually closed the ground quite quickly in a few weeks just within that relegation piece. But yeah, it's going to be a tall ask in terms of that piece for sure.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, it's quite fun, right? Last year it was, Liverpool ran away with it, and it wasn't really super exciting in terms of that piece, of a title race. But it seems like this year we have both spectrums, right? Top of the table and the bottom of the table should be quite interesting. It'll be interesting to see here in the next, 7 games or so, once they get up to about 30, and they have 7 or 8 games left, kind of where everybody's at and sitting, and have that conversation again on, what you think possibly could happen at that point.
Right. And one of the cool little fun facts, when I was prepping for today, just looking at how teams have been doing, Brighton, and Hove Albion.
Yeah. 2 teams. It's not fair.
Yeah. They're sitting in 15th right now.
Right.
But in their last 5, they have 11 points.
Right.
3 wins and 2 draws. And they're 10 points clear of relegation. And they've got 11 points in their last 5. So they were sitting down there. So, a run like that for somebody like Sheffield, could get them out. So
yeah, you put 3 wins together, and Sheffield puts 3 wins together, they're at 20 points.
Right.
Now you're in the conversation, right?
Yep. And I think they certainly could.
Yeah.
And then shout out to Ryan Henkel's team, Arsenal. They're in 10th place. They're such a funny team. They seem like they have a nice little 2 or 3 game tick forward.
I know.
And then just completely lose the plot on 2 games.
I think they were, to be honest with you, this last week or the midweek for sure, against Wolves, I felt like they played very, very well. And then the PK red card going to 1-1 right before half, obviously it's going to wreck any team, right, in those situations. Right. So a little harsh on that one. I didn't see their game against Villa this weekend, but obviously 1-0, and but yeah, you're exactly right. It's one of those things that good weeks and bad weeks, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a really early goal.
It was like 2 minutes
3
in.
minutes.
Yeah, it was 2 minutes.
And then you just hang on for dear life.
Yeah.
The rest of the way, I'm looking. They had 67% possession. Arsenal did against Villa,
right.
And outshot Villa 14-12.
Right.
But only had 3 on target.
Right.
So shooting's good.
Right.
But something I tell the kids: shooting's good, but we have to finish.
Right.
So let's not work on shooting. Let's work on finishing.
What I say is, force the goalkeeper to make a save, right?
Right. Right.
Put it on frame, and if goalkeeper makes a save, goalkeeper makes a save.
Right.
But at least give yourself a chance. So.
Right.
Well, cool. Well, I think we'll wrap things up there. You got anything else to chat with before we move on to Kyle?
No, I think that was good. I'm excited to see where the Premier League goes. And Champions League and Europa start here next week again. It's been a long time since they've played those games, and so it'll be interesting to see with all the COVID and all the restrictions, international travel, and all these things, how they get the games in and what those are going to all look like. But I'm excited to see that jump back into the mix. We've had a lot of Premier League games. I love kind of Christmas time to early February for the Premier League.
Right.
There's so many games.
Right.
They're playing midweek and on the weekends. Almost every day of the week.
Right.
There's a game on. I'm excited to see the game today.
Yep. Leeds and Crystal Palace.
Leeds and Crystal. Crystal are on 2 wins. They've won their last 2.
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting to see how they do. And Leeds is always exciting to watch in the attacking phase of the game.
It's either good or bad, right?
Right. Yeah. They're teams that, like the United 23s, that could win games 6-3 or lose 6-4.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right, cool. Well, we're going to take a short little break, and we will be back with Kyle Kleeburg.
Thanks, Jay. All
right, welcome back to episode 7 of Shankapotamus. joined with James here, and we're going to welcome in Mr. Kyle Kleeburg. Kyle, how are you?
I'm good today. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Very good.
So Kyle is new to new position. I wouldn't say new to the club, but new position in the club. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But Kyle, just for our viewers and listeners, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you came from, all that.
Nice. Yeah. I was born in Tyler, Texas, born and raised there throughout all of high school. Grew up all of high school kind of in the Plano, McKinney, Frisco area. Whenever I moved out there, most everything was, little 2-lane roads, and now it's a booming metropolis and everything is there at this point. So most of my family is all still there, and it's kind of where I grew up. I enjoyed playing soccer, spending time with my family and friends, hanging out at church, just kind of going through all that throughout my days.
Sweet. So kind of elaborate a little bit on, because you're in such a different spot with us as a club. You were with us as a contracted coach, and then you become full-time with the club recently. Kind of go back to when you first started with the club, what your role is now, and just kind of what you like about the club.
Nice. Yeah. I moved here in 2016 and been with the club ever since. It's funny that actually getting to coach in college in Oklahoma goes back to the head coach who used to be good buddies with Jay, actually.
Used to
from
be
back
teammates.
in the day.
Yeah,
So
used to be youth club teammates. Yep.
Yeah, so that was a pretty cool connection. So that was really how I heard about Edge, was through that connection a long time ago, and just love the feel and the vibe. Love how all the staff members, just rally around all the other coaches. Even right as I jumped in, being young especially, and I mean I had 4 or 5 years of experience of coaching already, but just the support that I had coming here at the club is just something I really looked for and valued in my time, especially with coaching, and just getting to be around you guys, seeing some of your sessions, getting feedback on some of mine, and how I can just continue to improve on things, and just getting to bounce ideas back and forth to kind of like, why do we do what we do? I got to come in. I coached an academy team and then one club team right out of the gate, and kind of followed that path and model. And then also with my background in goalkeeping as well, I got to help out with the former director as well, kind of assisting with most of the goalkeepers. I didn't help with every session, but got to a couple nights a week and all that. And so it's been great. And then whenever y'all moved to the new facility, I got to even take over kind of running the rentals and things like that for the futsal court and the meeting room and all of that kind of stuff, which was a blast as well. Getting to do that and get to be a part of more conversations behind the scenes. So it's fun now to kind of get to take back over a role that I've had formerly in Oklahoma, getting to be the director of goalkeeping here, which I'm very excited for this role, and to see where it leads.
Cool. And so you're the director of goalkeeping. You're also in charge of a couple other things in the club. Mostly we're here to talk about your goalkeeping and you,
right.
But what other roles are you holding in the club?
Yeah, so full title would be Director of Goalkeepers and Coordinator, primarily with tournaments and events. So any events the club puts on, 5K run, all these different things, just kind of helping Todd or David, or really whoever's kind of putting on this event, and trying to kind of be there to help them and facilitate things and just make life a little easier for them, for sure. And kind of the same thing within the tournaments right now as well, just doing a lot of the things kind of behind the scenes, trying to take some things off of their plate as much as possible as well, just to kind of free them up and allow them to have a more comfortable role within what they're doing.
Great. With your new coordinator role, I assume at some point you'll be taking over like tournament schedules things like that. So I'll be able to email you when there's an issue with my tournament schedule. Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, very likely. That could be coming in the future. Very likely. Yeah.
Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, cool, Kyle. You know, we also call you Klee.
Yeah, most
Kleeburg,
do.
Klee.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, we're excited to have you, Klee, on board, full-time staff member, and look forward to what you're going to do with the goalkeepers and your new full-time role. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's switch little gears here and talk about, you mentioned you grew up in Texas. Let's talk about your youth career. What'd that look like? What'd that path take you? Let us know about that a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I was born in Tyler. All my family never really had heard of soccer. So it was pretty unheard of. I'll even go really quick into this story, how I actually got into soccer. I was the only kid on my baseball team at 4 or 5 years old that could throw someone out from third base at first. We were absolutely just getting slacked in a game, and I was really frustrated. And so I just kicked the baseball back to the pitcher's mound when we were losing pretty big. And so mom and dad were like, "Hey, like, why are you kicking the ball?" And so we started figuring out. And so I started playing soccer. And very quickly with the conflicting schedules so much, I had to pick, and I was like, man, I want to run around. I want to be involved. Like, I'm playing soccer. And so just kind of got started at that. So soccer wasn't huge in Tyler, which is about an hour and a half, hour and 45 straight east of Dallas. But grew up there, and it was good. Had a lot of friends at school and things that played as well. So that made it even more enjoyable. With my rec team. And so I played that all the way up through U10 because we didn't have academy select or anything like that at that point. And then we kind of took some of the best kids of those rec teams and made a club team there, and had a coach that hadn't coached club in a little while. Mitch was my first club coach. And we easily handled Tyler in neighboring competition because obviously we took most of the best kids from our rec teams and made a really good team. And so we went to Dallas quite a bit, and then we ended up actually joining into a league in Dallas. And then kind of at that point, I had moved with my family up into the Plano area and lived in McKinney, went to Frisco school, just kind of based on the lines that were drawn. Like, we literally lived right on the border pretty much of 4 different cities. And so everything was super close in that regard. So ended up playing for a team called Club Classic under Wilco Ravistjan, nice Dutch guy from back in the day. Loved getting to play for him, loved his accent, enjoyed every time that he would like get mad and start yelling at the referee. My dad still enjoys even getting to throw that out there too at times, because it was just such a distinct voice and accent. And he really grew a passion in the game for me and inspired that and just pushed me to want to be better and just to keep going. And then ended up playing in high school as well at Frisco Centennial. My freshman year of high school was the first year we actually had varsity, as this was a new high school coming in, didn't even have seniors yet. My freshman year, and we were not great because we obviously didn't have a whole lot of experience, but we had a lot of good club players in and around. And so by sophomore year, we became a pretty well-established school. And my junior year, we were actually the first boys team to make playoffs of any sport at our high school. And so that was pretty cool, getting to do that and play in front of a pretty big crowd as well. One of the largest crowds I've ever played in front of, probably about 1,000 or so at one of our playoff games, because we got so many of the kids at school and just so many families. And it was one of the coolest feelings, just getting to play Friday night lights soccer in Texas as well. And then I played club soccer for Club Classic up through about 15, 16. And then I made a jump. My team used to be playing with Andromeda Soccer Club, which is a pretty predominant soccer club in the Dallas area. And then my junior year, we actually jumped on to our team moved to a different club under Dave Durr and Dave Kunitz, who's also up here now as well in the area. Played for ASG Soccer Club, and we played in the second division in Texas, and we could pretty well hang with most of the groups in the first division in the state, but we just never could quite crack into that group. But we had a lot of really good kids. We had a lot of kids that played at rival high schools for this club team. So high school games were so much fun, just getting to play against all your buddies that you played club with. And then most of the warm-ups on Saturday before the game was talking trash about how we just pumped them, the night before in high school games. And it was a blast just getting to have that camaraderie back and forth and just the banter. So.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What's you've been coaching for a few years now. What's your favorite memory as a coach?
Ooh, yeah, that's honestly, that's probably one of the toughest questions. That's really hard to come up with one. I would have to say, if I had to pick one, it's probably the one that really just got me up out of my chair and excited. I believe it was my first year here at the club. I think I had all of the '07 Academy select groups, and was coaching in a tournament down in Littleton, and '07 Boys United group is getting tanked in this game. We're losing like 4-0. We also only had 7 or 8 players. I don't think we had any subs, maybe one. Actually, I know we had one because of the story I'm about to tell. So we're getting slacked. All of a sudden, we just kind of start creeping back in. We score a couple goals. And I mean, the other team had been better than we had on the day for sure. But we ended up squeaking one out, and Rafferty ends up scoring a goal with like no time left on the clock for us to win 5-4. And like we had just come back from this huge deficit in a game we really probably had we should not have won. But we did, just thanks to the late heroics and effort of the guys just really getting after it in the second half. And I remember like getting up and running around the bags, and I was like, I can't believe that we just did this. And I can't remember who it was on the bench. I remember I was like grabbing him and hugging him. I was like, how did we do this? And it was, yeah. So I would say that would probably have to be my favorite one. It's just watching them come together and just that determination and spirit at the end of a game that you're getting crushed to have it in you to come back. Yeah,
that's a cool story. It's it's fun when you're a part of those.
Yeah.
As a coach, as a player, as
Right.
a fan, it's just fun to be in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kyle, what are some random fun facts about you that you could tell our viewers?
Fun facts. I love to run. It's kind of been something new that's kind of come in with the COVID era of things, just trying to get out and
That sounds awful.
Stay fit, stay active. Yeah, I actually went for a nice, really, really cold run this morning already for a couple of miles. So just really, really been enjoying that. I love to read. Another thing that I've picked up. I've always wanted to read, just something I've really tried to get into and spend some time with. A lot of things kind of come in with the COVID era, just, having a little bit more time or just being at home and trying to stay, mentally sane. Really just picked up on those two. I've always enjoyed golfing. Love to go snowboarding as well. And then really been trying to get into a little bit of yoga, trying to stay a little bit limber and somewhat fit so that I can still demonstrate some goalkeeping things when I need to do that. So.
Sweet.
Perfect.
So we're going to get into some of your favorite sports teams.
Okay.
So who, I already know the answer, but
Yeah.
God.
I figured I would catch a little slack from you guys for this one. So.
Yeah,
Sure.
well, but it's all right.
Not really. Right,
Yeah.
not right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, not right now. You can.
We're not really on the up and up by any means.
Right. You'll have to go back and listen to the first part of Shankapotamus Ep7, when Jay and I were talking about it. But what's your favorite soccer team?
I love the look of excitement that you have there, James. Knowing that Liverpool FC is about to be uttered out of my mouth. Yeah. Yeah. It had been a long, grueling fandom from my, youth, watching them get so close so many times and then just be not close for many years as well. And then obviously last year getting to finally celebrate after so many years of coming up short and being so close, and obviously not on super great form right now. So
Right. And we've all been in those situations for sure where you just can't find it. A fun little fact that I shared earlier in our episode. Last year at this point, after 23 games, Liverpool was on 67 points, and they're on 40 right now.
Yeah.
That's the biggest decrease ever.
Wow.
Ouch. I'll just leave that there.
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot. Like
Drop.
Hard. Yeah. I don't know how to. Yeah, I don't even know what I'm supposed to say at this point.
Yeah. So other than Liverpool, do you have any other soccer teams, other sports teams that you like to follow?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be soccer, but.
Yeah, of course. Being from Dallas, I obviously follow a lot of Dallas teams. I grew up, my dad and I we had season tickets to pretty much every home FC Dallas game. So I still am a big supporter there. Pretty well watch most of the games whenever I have the chance. And, occasionally get to go to a game. If I can get back down there and see the family, I'll try to go with my dad just because it's something we've always enjoyed getting to do and just have kind of our thing and spend that time together. Obviously, then I love another team that's obviously been a big frustration and a ton of struggle for seemingly the last eternity of my life, which is the Dallas Cowboys. Always looking real good, and then nothing ever happens with them. But got to support them. Dallas Stars, another big one. I actually really love hockey. Hockey's up there as probably one of my top favorite sports. For sure, which is probably a little bit of a ironic thing to be from Dallas and be such a big hockey fan, but always loved the Stars. Probably made it to more Dallas Stars games than I have many others in the recent past. So enjoyed that a lot. And then golf is probably my other biggest one that I enjoy getting to watch and obviously play as well. So
Nice.
Yeah, I feel you on the Cowboy stuff. As you know, I'm Oklahoma guy, so that's who we cheered for. My dad and grandpa put me into that, and so very frustrating.
Yeah.
So, what it could be one or multiple. Your choice here. Kind of favorite athletes that you follow or like to follow, or things of that nature.
Yeah. I'll start off with some soccer, obviously, and some goalkeepers. A couple that I've really enjoyed getting to watch, kind of the evolution of Zach Steffen and kind of where he's coming in. Watched him from a young age. I think I even got to watch him live in college when he played for Maryland, because Dallas has hosted quite a few college cups there in Frisco, especially once the stadium was built. So just kind of getting to even, see him from a young age, and then kind of watch him as he was early on in his pro career with Columbus, and then, going overseas to Germany, then coming back, and now getting to kind of watch him go through at Man City and kind of follow Ederson and get to train with him, and just kind of some of the interviews and things that he gets to talk about. I've really enjoyed just kind of watching him. And, in my opinion, he's the next big guy that I think should be getting the opportunities and the looks for the U.S. men's national team when the game's on the line and truly matters, especially coming up. I mean, I think he could be the next Tim Howard, and I think he could be better than Tim Howard, even at Tim Howard's biggest and best moments. So he's shown that he has that capability. And so hopefully that'll come to fruition. Love a lot of other goalkeepers too. I've always enjoyed watching Manuel Neuer, just something special about the guy. Just even reading articles from his, own family and other coaches talking about him. He's not the biggest dude by any means, or the guy that you would expect to be in goal. And just, his incredible mentality and just strength that he has to read the game and understand it has been unreal. And just his insane athleticism and making just flat out ridiculous saves that he makes at times too is incredible. A lot of other athletes that I enjoy following. Patrick Mahomes is a big dude. He's born just outside of Tyler, where I was, so hard to not support the guy, especially there, being from almost the same hometown, just down the street. And then just all the things that he does off the field as well is really so huge. Just how big he is in his community, and even back in his hometown, still very involved, donating, always giving, and donating of his time and money back home to take care of people is something I really value in athletes who get to do things that they do and still spend time and show that they value people. So probably some other golfers would be the next biggest ones that I probably follow. After that, I really enjoy watching Webb Simpson, Dustin Johnson, all those guys. Just incredible, the athletes that they are and what all they can do, and just, again, how much philanthropy they're involved in with just all these different organizations and charities that they're always spending time with. It's great to see.
That's cool.
Awesome.
So you brought up goalkeepers and obviously the goalkeeper director of the club. One thing I really like about Neuer, it probably drives people crazy, and it would absolutely drive people crazy, parents crazy of young goalkeepers. Yeah. But the guy is so confident with the ball at his feet, and it's becoming more prevalent in the goalkeeper position and in the game. But he's been doing it for years, where he's just so confident. He'd try moves, he'd try to beat people 1v1, which it's a little bit, how are we gonna go? But speak on that. I mean, it's such an important part. It drives parents crazy. Sometimes it drives coaches crazy, it drives teammates crazy, but really just it's so important that goalkeepers are comfortable with the ball at their feet.
Absolutely. It definitely can drive you mad. I try to remember exactly which game it was. We had watched a Champions League game as a team for one of our training sessions one day in college during off season. And I remember counting the amount of times that this goalkeeper touched the ball, and I can't remember exactly who it was, but I think he had some like 85 touches throughout the entire game, and 75 of them were with his feet. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, yes, goalkeeping is, can you make saves and come up with those? But at the end of the day, especially as you get older and playing in those games, your touches are going to come more along the lines with your feet. And so just having that comfortability with the ball at your foot, being able to play passes consistently is really what's going to help you excel at this position, especially more and more as, even at young levels all the way up, like, people want to try to play out of the back, keep possession, and then also just to be able to hit that long ball, like Neuer can, and Ederson, and a few of those high goalkeepers that we all think about, they can ping a ball 80 yards on a dime. And that's something that, I think goalkeepers, especially at young ages, can sometimes forget about, is like, I just need to train, my hands, and I need to be good at making saves. But it's your feet that you also have to be incredibly, incredibly good with to be successful.
Yeah. What's some advice that you give to a young goalkeeper about trying to use his feet?
Just one, be confident. Two, just put in the work at practice. Like, just because you're a goalkeeper, I mean, I could even think back to many training sessions when I was younger, and the goalkeeper, is in the session and all that, for numbers. And he's like, well, I'm the goalkeeper, and you're just kind of messing around and not really putting anything into it. That's not going to help your feet, get any better. So, I mean, even if you're the full-time goalkeeper, right, you still need to put in that same technical effort and ability with your feet as well. I always try to incorporate distribution into every goalkeeping session that I do, because more likely than not, you're going to have to distribute the ball in some way, shape, or form, whether it's with your feet, hands, all that. And just be comfortable with the ball at your feet.
Yeah, those are all, good pieces, right? I mean, we always try to incorporate, with us being coaches, trying to incorporate our goalkeepers in the session, right? And forcing them to use their feet more and act like a field player. So it's definitely important. What, as you know, I mean, you've been in the club now for 4 or 5 years now. Our struggle is always, finding kids that want to be goalkeepers. right? And, some are on the fence about it. I want to do both. I want to do one or the other, be a field player, be a goalkeeper. What kind of advice or stuff do you talk about with especially the younger kids on making that decision on, go this path or that path or whatever it may be?
Yeah. I mean, obviously we always want more goalkeepers, for sure. For me, whenever I was reluctant, whenever I kind of moved into goalkeeping as well, mine was kind of more out of a need and with our high school team for a good goalkeeper. And I was pretty reluctant, but I ended up really coming to love the position for a few reasons. One, there's just a different sense of like responsibility and just kind of ownership that you get to have back there. You get to see the whole field, your vision. I mean, if you're active and staying engaged, like it's a lot more fun than some people can say like, oh, you're just standing back there not doing anything. Well, then you're not really engaged, right? If you're out there talking, communicating, organizing, talking to your teammates, even as they're 85 yards away at the other end of the field, just giving ideas, right? It just makes the game so much easier and so much better. And I got a lot of praise from that whenever I first started, because I just thought goalkeepers talk, like as I watched professional games, like that's all goalkeepers did back there, was they're just talking, organizing and different things. And I remember that was one of the things I tried to emulate as much as possible. And I remember my teammates in high school, like, man, this is so helpful. Like, I mean, sometimes I wish you would, stop talking, but at the end of the day, like it helps us, like we don't have time to pick our head up a ton, but you're telling us this guy's in, so like we can just play him. You have to look because you're back there talking to us. So just getting to be able to see the field in that regard and just stay active. But probably one of the biggest things is just it's almost like an adrenaline rush back there, just knowing that hopefully you're about to rob this person of an incredible goal that they're about to score, and just come up with that huge save that just gives your team life and energy again. Is something that makes that position so unique and just so fun back there, is getting to make some of those big saves.
I always tell kids, that, play back there, it's probably the one position that you're allowed to be an absolute jerk in, because, if anybody talks back to you or, does something, well, why don't you come back here and do it then? Right. That's the response that you give. Right. So I agree with you. I think it's super important, especially with the younger kids, right, to just have that communication and feel engaged. Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, especially, James is on the boys and I'm on the girls side, and boys, I think it's a little bit easier to find those kids that are brave enough and confident enough to jump into that. And the female side, it's a little bit different, but just having that confidence and that feeling that want of being back there. Right. I think that's the biggest thing is I think a lot of female young players think that, I got to stand back. I just stand back here and stand on the line and do nothing. Just try to save the ball out of the back of the net, when in reality, there's so much more to the position that obviously you break down in your trainings. We as youth coaches need to do a better job of incorporating them in, games and stuff like that to make it a little bit more exciting for these kids to feel that want in that position. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely can be tough. It does take, some courage and bravery for sure to go back there. That's obviously the one tough piece, that you hear is like, well, goalkeepers, if you make a mistake, the ball is probably in the back of the net. Everyone else, you at least have someone else, behind you. So if you make a mistake at any point, and so the blame goes to you, right? Yeah, the pressure or the blame, because especially if you have a blunder, that you're, one that you're expected to save and should save, I think that's kind of where it gets into, especially as kids are younger, where that pressure and that mentality can kind of build up. And, I think they're kind of nervous to be that vulnerable almost in a sense, because you're wearing a different jersey. You're by yourself back there. There's no one else that's, a goalkeeper next to you. So I would say that'd probably be one of the biggest, things that I hear a lot and see a lot from my coaching experience as well.
One thing that comes to my mind with young goalkeepers is mental toughness.
Yeah.
The being mentally tough And, that's a tough thing to learn at 10 years old or 14 years old or 16 years old. It's a tough thing to learn about being mentally tough and having the mentality of next play. And, just if you're going to make a mistake and you got to move on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a very big aspect of goalkeeping. I mean, there's goalkeepers that I've known all my life, that they have the mental toughness, and the ones that don't. Like the goalkeeper that you're going up against, like he's really good, but the second that one goal goes in, you're scoring 9. Like he's just going to shut down completely and just loses his mind. Can't make simple saves, and I mean, same could be said, on some female goalkeepers that I've seen, coaching in my experience, even through college in Oklahoma as well. Just going back, like it really is such a mental thing for the goalkeepers, and such a big focus of that has to be the mentality and staying strong. One, like if you make a great save, excellent, you got to make the next one now. Hey, you gave up a goal, bummer, you got to make the next save now. Like just forget it, move on. And that's a tough place to be, especially if the goal that you gave up potentially was not a great one that you should have saved, and potentially a blunder. Like that's hard to get out of your head sometimes. And so mental strength is so key and huge in this position.
Yeah. Mental toughness and self-confidence in everything we do. I mean, math, we need to have that,
almost have to have like a little bit of arrogance to be a goalkeeper, like just being able to stay that mentally strong. I mean, hopefully it's not an arrogance that's, overbearing and, getting after people in that regard, but just almost a little bit overly self-confident at times too, just to be able to get yourself out of those adverse times and situations to keep yourself moving.
Yeah, it's definitely a different breed of athlete, right? That wants and needs to play that position.
Yeah.
We got a few minutes here before we need to wrap up, but what's if let's say some younger players or parents, what kind of advice then can you give them in terms of, my kid likes to play goalie, but they like to play on the field, which direction should they go? Should they do both? Should they pick one or the other? What is your thought process on that in terms of deciding those and making those decisions?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I enjoy having a full-time goalkeeper, I especially love it. Probably up through it at least 12, maybe even up to 14 as well. If you can, at least get some minutes on the field. If you're not even doing like halftime or something like that, like just trying to find ways to, one, just get you exposed to those other positions. Because one, even as a goalkeeper, it's nice to understand, one, like what do your defenders or your midfielders or your forwards kind of go through in the games and different things. So you can kind of start to understand, like, hey, like I don't want the ball. I just made a 60-yard run. Like I'm exhausted. Like don't punt the ball the next time that you see the forward, exhausted. Like give them a minute to catch their breath and just kind of understand the functionality of some of those other positions, I think is really key. And also ties back into just them being more confident with their feet. If they're consistently, punting balls or distributing a ball, at a person's chest or stomach, and they're understanding how difficult that is to now bring down under pressure, then it might change their mentality about, I need to make sure I'm doing better at my own distribution so that they don't have to deal with that. So I think it's just kind of understanding the functionality, but also getting the technical pieces that come along, because at some point you're going to have a terrible back pass that you got to bring down with your chest or your thigh. That you're going to have to deal with in a game that you're not ready for. And so just playing in those moments, I think, is huge and helpful on the field as well. And then by the time that you get to that 12 or 14, then it's, I feel like you should probably be like, hey, like, I really feel this is the best avenue for me. This is what I want to do at that point. And then you can kind of start really honing in. But I think even up to that age, like, if you have any interest in goalkeeping, like you should be doing some type of training and different things like that to specialize in it, because you can't just go and goal in a game and then decide that you don't like it when you haven't really put in the training or the work to see what you could do with it.
All right, James, you got anything else?
No, appreciate it, Kyle.
Yeah. No, thanks for coming on, Kyle, and telling us a little bit about yourself and, helping out with goalkeeper stuff and giving some advice on that piece. Real quick, last question for me is it bad for a young player to say that they want to be a goalie full-time?
No, I don't think so. Just making sure, again, like I have a full-time goalkeeper with me. He's fantastic. He loves it. Every day I ask him, like, hey, do you enjoy it? Is this, you're happy with things and all that? And as long as they're enjoying it, I don't see any issue with it. I do try to get them on the field as much as I can, even in game situations, just to give them some minutes there when possible. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks again. Appreciate you coming on and telling us a little bit about yourself, and looking forward to seeing you on the field, working with our goalkeepers, and hopefully get a good season in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it as well. Thanks again for having me today.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Clee.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Thanks everyone for listening in and watching in, and we'll see you next time. Take care.